Hey guys and girls, just want to shoot a quick video about squonking atomizers, rebuilding them, some things that we've learned over time to help improve the vape, particularly with smaller diameter ones, 18mm or whatnot, and vaping flavors, which has been kind of new to me over the last, say, I don't know, 3 months or so, 2 to 3 months, been vaping flavors. So changes have to be made in order to accommodate that. When you're vaping unflavored nic base, wicks and coils don't really gunk much at all. When you vape flavors, different things can affect how fast they gunk, can affect flavor itself, can affect how often you re-wick. Re-wicking is kind of a given that you're probably going to be doing it. The smaller the atomizer, probably the more often you're going to be re-wicking with the more sweet flavor, kind of like I'm vaping this mango lassie, mango cracky. So I wanted to kind of take you through that. These are relatively low wattage vapes, single coil vapes. Tend to favor any atomizer that takes a single coil anymore. It's because duals are kind of a pain in the ass to have to mess with, particularly with flavors, doing duals. So I'm going to take this one, which has a straight single contact coil in it that's like 2.5mm ID of SS430, and we're going to replace it with the 316 Clapton. I'll show you the wire and all that good stuff. I want to show you some interesting tricks that I've learned from my buddy of mine, Michael Graham, on leg bending and how important, I'm not talking like advanced leg bending, I'm talking very basic little things to get your legs out of the way of the wick. This is like a little 19-watt vape. Again, kind of focusing on squonkers. Probably a lot of these principles can carry over to drippers. And even a lot of squonkers tend to want to pack their wicks with their deck with wick. And that does absolutely nothing for you. It might give you, I don't know, perceived that you're getting more hits, maybe? Don't know. Are they flavorful hits? Don't know. They want to pack their decks with wick, and people have a tendency to pack their coils with wick. And as we've learned, particularly I've learned a lot from Michael, I've always wicked really sparse through the coil and on the deck, but Michael did a good job of explaining why. And that's that meniscus layer thing, getting all scientific, that forms between the wick and the coil, not just the capillary vaping of the wick. See, I've got his terms down. Let's go ahead and shoot this around and look at, we'll do just a quick rebuild. Again, take this thing and put a little Clapton in. And I'll show you kind of the constraints, proportions, things I kind of look for and build to maximize flavor and vapor. Also with like a 19 to 20 watt, 18 to 20 watt vape. Some things that I kind of have learned a little. I'm still always learning every day, but here's where I'm at right now. Okay, so we're going to be building this one right here. Again, we're going to be putting a little Clapton in it. This is an 18mm atomizer, a squonking atomizer. So what basically that means is it's bottom fed, has a hole in it, squonk it, juice comes in, let go, juice goes out. Wets your wick. You're not dripping. It's pretty much dripping for you. Here, I've got another atomizer with a Clapton already in it. To give you an idea of the setup, we will not be able to put a Clapton quite that wide in here. You wouldn't want to. You would have no room left for wick on the end. This is probably running at, this is a 10 wind Clapton. That's probably with this right here. This is what we're going to be using, by the way. I'm not making my own Clapton. Hell, my hands shake so much I can barely even coil an atomizer. This is the stuff that I'm running right here. Okay, it's stainless steel. It's 36 gauge outer wrap on a 26 gauge core. Okay, niftily packaged, so even a fool like me can make a pretty killer Clapton and pop it in. Like I said, I want to show you some things using this one sort of as a starting example of how we're going to wick it. I've just tried to clean up a little here and clean up your presentation a little, and usually wind up thinking you've done a good job until the lights get on and the camera gets on. You're looking through a viewfinder and you see things you don't normally see. So that's that setup. For me, the flavor of it is much more intense and longer lasting than a straight wire coil. Produces a bunch more vapor too, which is something I like. But you can see how little wick is on that, just enough to get down to the deck. We're going to replicate that setup in smaller scale on this atomizer right here. Just in case you're wondering, this happens to be the Sunbox X1 atomizer. 3 posts. You could put duals on it. It's dual or single coil capable. Sunbox E8K, E8 Compact, brand new Dicodes mod that just came out. Got it off right now for building purposes. Don't want to hit the old fire button on it. This one is a MedMods M-Addy on another Sunbox E9 Monster. So that's that. Let's just button this one back up because I'm going to probably need something to vape. I might get a little long in this because I want to cover up things that we normally either take for granted or don't think about, that I've been learning a lot about lately from talking to some knowledgeable individuals. I've been doing a lot of stuff for a while, but it's nice to know the science behind it and the reasoning behind it, okay? So let's start with the coil we're going to make. Obviously, this one, being that it's 18 millimeters, has some constraints. So we can't put a super wide coil on that deck. We wouldn't want to put a super wide coil on that deck, okay? For one, it's just going to not allow us to wick it properly. So we're going to put up kind of it's going to be a 2.5 millimeter ID coil. I've got all the tools we're going to need laid out here before us. And again, we're not doing anything highly technical here. I'm going to pull off, I don't know, like I'll usually always pull off more wire than I need to. So if I was measuring what I'm going to use to make this coil, about 6 inches of wire, probably be left over quite a bit. That's cool. I'd rather come up long than come up short. So there's that stuff. Just going to use this simple coil master, stick it in. Again, 2.5 millimeter ID pole on it. We're going to shoot for about a 6 wind Clapton to work in the constraints of that atomizer, okay? And one thing you got to keep in mind is stainless steel comes in quite a bit lower resistance than does regular like Kanthal wire. Many of you guys probably already know this stuff, but those people that don't, I thought I'd share it with you. And you always want to be able to check the resistance. One thing I found that helps with this Clapton wire, or any wires, these screws on the coil master, I put them in their inside position and I loosen them. I keep it loosened. I don't keep it tight. For me, it helps it grab the wire. So I'm just going to start wrapping, okay? One thing you'll notice is these wrap Clapton a hell of a lot better than they wrap thin wire, too. I'm just going to wrap till I kind of get to where this leg over here is about where I'm going to want to stop. That's kind of how I'm going to gauge it. Now we're not putting that big old fat coil on here. I'm going to pull a little bit off each leg, okay? For starters. So I'm just taking this thing. I don't really need this tool anymore, so I'm getting it out of the way. I'm going to need that pole. That pole is going to come in handy for a multitude of things. Now again, doing this through a viewfinder could be kind of fun because I find it to be kind of fun and interesting even without the viewfinder. So bear with me, just trying to convey a little knowledge and maybe help you learn some of the stuff that I've been learning of late. So I want these legs to basically come off the coil like this when I'm done for bending purposes. Okay, I want them to come off just like that. But I want to pull the starter wraps off. And again, I want to wind up with about six winds on here. Okay, when I'm all said and done, I'm going to pull one off or so off that side. I'm going to turn this over, pull some off this side. And then we'll just judge. Where I'm trying to basically, I don't ever want it, I'd want to try not to, I shouldn't say ever, I want to try not to be wider than the air holes. Okay? So right about here. See how I got my legs coming off basically? Or if I set the coil down, they're both coming off like that. There's a reason to that madness. And I'm going to set it down and sort of straighten them a little bit. Okay? And we're basically going to gauge the width of this with the width of this air hole. And we're good. Okay? We're good. I can't see exactly how many winds that is on there. But we'll see when we load it up. That just has the look of being just about the right width for this setup, okay? We're going to center it up, and that's why the leg bends come in so handy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with bending this outer leg here. What I'm trying to accomplish is, typically we stick a coil in, and you see how this atomizer is? How it seems like all good atomizers anymore are coming with a high center post and a low outer post, so that your legs, they always come off a coil eccentric. You could just plug it right in. We're still going to plug it right in, but when you have that low leg coming off over there, it gets in the way and interferes with wicking. And it's just, when you go to center it, that leg separates your end. So the way we're going to do it is we're going to bend this leg so that the leg that's coming off the top of the coil winds up going in there, and the leg that comes off the bottom goes in here. Just check it out. It's hard to explain it, but it's going to be really easy to show to you. Okay? So I'm just going to take this, and I want to pin this down, this coil, so that I'm putting my pliers right up against this thing here. That's simple, and just bending this leg back, like basically perpendicular to the coil. So there's the first leg bend. See, that wasn't hard, was it? And you're going to understand the madness of this in a minute, why we're doing this. Now we're going to turn it over, because I tend to work on this outside. Do the exact same thing with this leg right here. We're going to pin the coil down so it can't separate. We're just going to take this leg, get our plier in here, just bend it back straight. So now what you wind up with is this lower leg here, the one that's coming off the bottom, is going to go in the center post, and this top leg that I've bent down is going to go in the outer post. Now we're just going to clean these up a little, trim them off. No magic happening off camera here, but a lot of stuff you'll notice in my videos does sort of happen off camera because it's hard to work through a damn viewfinder. Let's just leave it at that. I think I'm going to cut more off this one. This is like the crazier leg. I like to leave one for obvious purposes longer, because when I go to cut it or install it, I'm installing that long leg first, and then I'm following it up with the short leg. That said, I'm going to turn it over. It doesn't change anything. This high leg is still down here, and it's going in the low post. What that allows, you'll see when I stick it in. Okay, so let's just stick this in this hole here. Stick this one over here on this side. I'll get my hand out of the way in a minute so you can see the whole deal. Where's my little screwdriver? I'll give this a little loosening here. Going coffeeless for y'all too, so I'm not as jumpy and shaky, sketchy as I might normally be if I was sitting down here just glugging the coffee away. Okay, so don't pay much attention to the state of the coil right now. It's going to be moved and manipulated quite a bit. Okay, right now what I'm going to try, my goal is to get it as close to these posts as possible for the manipulation we're about to do, okay? I want it like almost right up against them. Then we're going to do all kinds of manipulating. So I'm going to start by tightening this outside lead right here, the negative post. Just jamming it up against her. Again, you're looking at the coil, probably going, that's a mangled mess. Bear with me, guys. Okay, now we got this one here. I want it underneath this screw. And these are little revelations. I was always just plugging my coil straight in, low leg down, high leg up, and not realizing when I centered when I centered up the coil, or if I didn't even bother to center all times, but either way, what I was doing to the deal in the process. So that coil, you see, it's pretty well loaded over on the side right now, right? So I'm going to tighten in on this. It's way over there, isn't it? So we want to push it over. I'm going to use the thickness of this tool to do it. It's almost right up on the posts, okay? But look at this, the lower leg is coming off the top. So that means when I'm pushing this over, I'm not separating it. And this leg over here, if it does cross up a little, it's not hurting anything. So all I'm going to do is now I'm going to use this, and that's the one cool thing about this BFX atomizer. It is stout. You don't have to worry about it turning on there or anything. I'm just going to use this tool. I'm going to push this over and center it up. Okay? I'm going to try and center it up as much as possible. Again, if this leg gets a little bit crossed up under there, not the end of the world, but you can see how nice and tight that is becoming right there. Yeah, you could just jam on this BFX because it's threaded on the outside. You're not worrying about a 510 post, you know, putting a lot of pressure on it and any of the screws. I don't tend to worry about it anyway. So what we've got there now, it's getting to be a pretty killer alignment. So you see how I've left the wicking holes completely unobstructed, okay? Here, let's tighten in a little bit more. Where the wick is going to come out, there's no leg in the way, is there? See that? That's why we bent those legs. We didn't bend the legs because we were bored. We want to make things complicated. That was easy. You saw me do it. I can do it. Chances are it's pretty easy. I think all this stuff laying around is making it tough for my camera to grab any focus. So that's it. But what I would like to do is center it just a hair more, because I want the wick to be about as balanced in here as possible, okay? So I'm putting quite a bit of force on this at this point to get that over there. And we're going to straighten it. I want the coil to be right, exactly parallel with the air hole as much as possible. I want it close to the edge of the deck, and I want it not so high, but I don't want it drowning in liquid either. Now again, when I squonk this, you'll see the liquid does drain out of this atomizer excellent. So that's something you got to keep in mind. Some atomizers drain like that and some don't. I tend to prefer ones that don't drain away. You have to actually prepare a little for ones that do drain. You're just going to squonk. Prepare more means just squonking more is all, okay? You're squonking more. So I'm going to push this down just a tiny little bit so that when I look at it in the atomizer, it's going to be, the air hole is going to hit this pup right about, you'll see where it's going to hit it, right about dead nut center of it, okay? Right about the center of that coil. It's about a little less than the width of that air hole, where it will adjust it accordingly. So there's that. Now what we want to do is just put our tool back in and check our leads and make sure that we didn't lose any tension in our leads when we did all that manipulating of the coil. Just tighten them back down. Even though this screw wasn't moved, I'm just checking it while it's in there. I wouldn't want to inhale that puppy one day, would you? Hell no. Okay, so there we go. Close to looking good and straight. Now we're going to get rid of the leads here. We're not going to run this through this coil either. We're not going to do it that way. We're not going to what's the word I'm looking for? Cue this coil. We're going to squeeze it some. Okay, so these are gone. We're going to put them somewhere nobody will step on them or anything. Let's take a look, see if we can get this to focus up on here. There's the gig. See that? Look how we're going to be wicking. It's coming straight out the side. It's not going to be overlapping any legs. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the power. I got to turn this on. I'm going to turn the power on this down a little. I don't want to hit this with 20 watts. I want to hit it more with about, I don't know, about 10 watts for starters. Yeah, watch me. I always kind of play around with this stuff when it's a 6.64 ohm coil. Why does that keep happening to me? We just want to get to power. There we go. We're going to get down to somewhere around 10 watts or so to hit this with, to get it to burn in nicely, okay? So there's about 10 watts. Stainless steel, you'll notice it jumps around in resistance. For this, I will use these. I don't break them out right away. The tweezers, I try and let the coil just sort of do its thing. If I see one leg starting to glow hot real quick, I will squeeze it a little. This is all stuff I've been learning from my coil scientist dude. I just turn this thing off. Doesn't like to be hit 5 times in rapid succession. I want to glow it slow, okay? We're not trying to glow this thing really fast at all. And I'm watching it to see if any of the legs on the outside start to show any signs of like frying first. If they do, then I'm going to squeeze. If not, I'm just going to slowly hit this thing. Let it do its thing. Being that I squonked it, you'll notice that there's juice burning. Let's call it vaporizing. This has to be a pretty boring part of watching any video, but this one is coming off real well. As you can see, that is just, it's glowing pretty evenly from the starters. You don't really have anything going on that makes me go, okay, time to scrap this bitch and do a new one. None of that happening at all. It's glowing nice and even. So very low power at this moment. That's about it. Okay. That low power lets it just take its way in. If I keep this on for too long, the board will lock down too. So we don't want to do that. So now we've done that a little bit at low power. I'm going to kick it up to about 15 watts. Okay, give me 1 second to do so. Okay. Not squeezing it to do anything more than just, I don't know what, you guys, the coil itself is pretty tight. I'm not squeezing it to try and put it together. It just does stuff to it when you manipulate coils. I don't know what. So, I'm feeling pretty good about this one right about now. Putting very little pressure on these little forceps here, tweezers. These are ceramic tip tweezers too, for anybody wondering. Don't try and squeeze your coil and fire it without ceramic tip tweezers, because you'll probably short the hell out of it. You might even shock yourself, I don't know. That's what these ceramic tips are for. So that coil is glowing nice right now, huh? Looks like it's ready for wick, doesn't it? So what we'll do before we wick it is just turn this thing off again. I think it'll even tell us by. If we do it right, yeah, it does. Not quite as snazzy as some of the stuff that's out there, but I can give a rat's ass. It's a pretty killer little board. So now wicking. The other subject that many people, squonkers particularly, I mean even drippers, everyone I see wick, most pictures I see of wick, people seem to have too much wick. Just the nature of the beast. People just put a bunch of wick in. I don't know. I guess I'm not sure what the rationale behind that is, but there's two ways you can put in too much wick. One is you can overfill the coil. The other one is you can overfill the deck. A combination of one or both are not good for you. This is what I'm using to wick it with Native Wicks Platinum. I'm just separating off way more than I need, and then I'm going to kind of work this little piece to be what I exactly need it to be. It's way more than I need. Right there. So it got me a big fat piece. What I want to do is I just want to barely fill that coil. Barely fill it, like just fill it. That's it, okay? Why are we doing that? This is what I've learned why. And I've always used less wick. People think that tight wick is good in some ways, that it stores more juice. I believe there might be some applications that I hear, like 14 millimeter addies and stuff, that might be a good thing for. But this is an 18 millimeter. I don't really need to store anything in the wick. I could squonk it at will. My main concern is I want to be able to get through at least one good hit, and then I could squonk again. I don't want it to dry out in the middle of a hit. So that's what I'm shooting for in this atomizer, since it doesn't store juice. The wick is going to pick up anything it stores, so you can see it again. It squonks, and then it evacuates. Pretty much fully, because the hole is right at the bottom. So this piece of wick would be way, way, way too thick, okay? So I'm going to separate off, and you guys, you're going to have to try me on this. Again, many people may already know this. I'm not breaking any new ground here. It's a 2.5 millimeter ID coil. I'm not breaking new ground, but it's stuff that people need to know. If you don't know it, you might be wondering why you don't get much flavor. I don't know. There's just a whole bunch of factors that can happen when your wick is too thick. I don't want to say you almost can't go too thin. You can go too thin. I've done it. But what you're trying to do is make your wick where it just fills the coil, but allows liquid to get between the wick and the coil, as well as not just in the wick. So I'm doing here, I got this off camera, a little wet paper towel. I've just had my fingers, they're not even wet. They're just enough that I could just kind of turn this wick. I'm not trying to really compress it. I'm just turning it to try and work out any of the smack from it. Feeling it for density. See how about right it is. And this is feeling right, okay? Now this atomizer is not going to hold much wick on the deck. So there's our little point. I'm going to put it through this coil. See that, what I'm doing here? See my mod moving? Now this is a hard thing to gauge because I mean this mod, the hell would it take to move this 26650? A lot of wick, but this is kind of a normal size, average size squonk mod that people are using. And I'm seeing just about the perfect density right there, okay? My mod ain't going anywhere, but I've got just a hair of resistance. Trust, guys, trust me on this, guys, and girls. Girls can trust me too. Now, we don't want a bunch of wick on the deck, so I'm trimming this side first, and then I'm going to get my little screwdriver here and see how we're doing as far as I just want to contact deck. That's all I want to do is contact deck. I do not want to like have anything on the deck other than to contact it. Just like that. You see that? You're already going to see, now you're going to see the capillary action of the wick as it's picking up juice, okay? So I want to do the same on the other side. I want to contact deck. That's it. Don't want it bunched up in there. I don't want it jammed up in there. I just want to get down on that little deck and grab the juice, bring it into that coil. And since I tilt, notice my air hole is over here. This is what I'm going to do because my mod is always tilting this way. Since I tilt this way, juice is liquid is normally going to like come to this corner. So on this corner, you see again, we're not contending with a leg of any sort. On this corner, I want it to be even a little bit shorter because it's tilting this way. If I have a big ball of wick down in that corner, then it's just holding a bunch of juice there that's not doing what it needs to do, I don't think. So on this side, especially when you're on your phone all the time doing your one finger typing, I want my coil right here. So there you go. Now, you see how quick that absorbed a little bit of wick on the deck, but anytime I want, I'm re-wetting this. That's why I'm not concerned with any wick on the deck. Again, if I can get through one hit, which more than often than not I'm getting through 2 or 3, before I re-wet this wick on a little atomizer like this, that's my goal, to get through one minimum, any size hit I want, and then more. This color you're seeing in there is 6 milligram mango cracky. Mango Lassie by Epistole Liquid. That's what's providing the flavor and color for your viewing pleasure. So you see that? Look, I hit it again, it goes away. It's the beauty of the whole deal. So let that soak in there for a second. See if I can bury that thing real quick. That crackling and popping noise, it's probably that meniscus layer burning off in there, you know, burning. So we're not just dealing with capillary wicking, which means just the wick, the liquid in the cotton. Now we got the meniscus layer that's developed between this here wick and that there coil. Okay, so you're storing more wick. And the Clapton allows it to store even more liquid, which means you're storing more liquid. The Clapton allows it to store more liquid because of all those little winds around it, right? All those little extra winds of wire that are on it. So look at that little deal. That's pretty purty, isn't it? And I know you guys are going, oh, that wick's way, way, way too thin. Bet you it ain't. Cotton swells. It's full of juice. Try me on that, okay? Try me on my method and my madness. Let's kick it up a little bit. We're going to go up to, I'm going to vape this at about 20 watts. Got to turn it on first. And put it up to about 20. And that's it. That is it. We are making rain. It's going to be some flavorful rain too. So it's kind of wicking for squonkers. I'd do the same thing if I was a dripper. I'm going to shut this air hole down just a hair because that's kind of, this air hole is taller than the air hole on my other atomizer. So I kind of like about the same draw. So I'm going single coil. I'm shutting the air hole down so it's about 2/3 of the way open. And I'm going to center it on this coil. First I'm going to clean up my mess here. Again, long-winded, but sharing the knowledge that's been passed to me. Nothing under the coil, no wick under the coil. Just touching the deck, so that every squonk results in a wetting of the wick. Wick picks it up, it goes away. Okay, this should be a very tasty and flavorful little vape. Let's hit it a few times together and see how it goes. Very, very nice. Just give it a little hit, 'cause I can squonk at will. Just give it a little hit. It's not hurting anything to do it. When the cap's on too, you could just, I don't really want to try and flood over the top of my coil if I can help it, but it's not really hurting anything. Extremely awesome. So that's what I know as of now about Wicking, about flavors, about this Clapton wire. I've had friends send me all kinds of killer Clapton. I got all kinds. I've switched over to stainless steel. One thing you'll notice when you're working with stainless steel is that it's malleable. What malleable means is that it's much more bendy, and it doesn't like Kanthal wants to snap back all the time stuff. This kind of stays where you put it, much more than Kanthal does. That's just the ease of build. Next thing you're going to notice is after you vape it for about a week, if you try and use Kanthal again, you're going to notice it tastes sort of dirty. Has much more. I mean, maybe you'll like that. I don't know. I know, and I have a tough time with Kanthal now. After using stainless steel, it's just a much, in my opinion, much cleaner vape than Kanthal. So yeah, I got it from here. Even though buddies of mine sent me some, I wanted to stock up on it. Not expensive at all, and I could never make this stuff. I mean, probably a lot of people do make it. Like I said, I barely have patience and the ability to build a coil, let alone make a wire like that. So I'd recommend that to anybody. It's using flavors. Not using flavors, probably not a big deal to go with the Clapton wire. You can just go with straight stainless. But the one cool thing about flavors is you'll notice that it brightens and amplifies them. I think it produces more vapor as well. So that's what I got, where I'm at. I'll talk to y'all.